Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're venturing into a really interesting spot in Minnesota, Split Rock Creek State Park. You might know some of the state's bigger parks, maybe up north, but this one, kind of tucked away in the south, it has a surprisingly rich story.
It really does.
Etched right into its landscape from, ancient geology to a forgotten silver rush.
Exactly. And for those of you listening who are always keen to learn something new, this deep dive is all about unpacking those layers of Split Rock Creek State Park.
Right.
We've sifted through quite a bit, archaeological findings, local news, park info, to bring you the most, fascinating nuggets.
Think of it like getting to know this unique place without having to do all the digging yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
So our mission today is pretty simple. Give you a compelling snapshot of this Minnesota gem, highlight what makes its natural and cultural heritage so special. So, whether you're maybe thinking of visiting or you just love a good story, let's get started. The story of Split Rock Creek State Park. It has a really interesting beginning. It kind of hinges on the passion of local people way back in 1937.
Yeah, what's fascinating here is that the park wasn't established through some, big government initiative initially.
Yeah.
It was actually driven by the community itself.
Really?
Yeah, residents actively campaigned to protect this one particular hillside that was just bursting with native prairie wildflowers. It really underscores the power of local advocacy and conservation.
It does, and it's a great reminder that, many of our treasured spaces started with someone just caring deeply about a place.
Absolutely.
And soon after that, the park's development got a pretty significant push from the Works Progress Administration, the WPA. Big program back then.
Oh, huge. The WPA's impact on the park is, undeniable. One of their key projects, finished up in 1938, was building the dam on Split Rock Creek.
Ah, the dam.
Yeah, and that created Split Rock Lake.
Yeah.
Which is especially significant because it's like the only sizable lake in all of Pipestone County.
No, the only one.
The only one. So this scarcity makes Split Rock Lake this vital hub for both wildlife and recreation in what's mostly a pretty dry landscape, a real oasis, you could say, created by human effort.
It's incredible to think that this key feature, the lake, was intentionally created, really addressing a need for water activities in that part of Minnesota.
Exactly.
Okay, now let's talk about the name. Split Rock. It's not just a catchy title, is it?
Yeah, not at all. Near the lake, you'll find this very prominent rock formation. It's made of quartzite, and it is quite literally split into two huge pieces.
Split?
Yeah. This striking feature gave both the creek and the park their name.
Okay, this is where the geological protective work comes in. How did this massive rock end up cleaved like that? Are there theories?
There are. We have a couple of main theories, yeah. One possibility is just the relentless power of freezing and thawing water over, centuries.
It's a freeze-thaw cycle.
Right. Water seeps into a crack, expands when it freezes, and just gradually forces the rock apart. The other theory, maybe a bit more dramatic, involves a massive lightning strike.
A lightning strike. Could that really split a rock that big?
Potentially, yeah. A powerful enough strike delivering an instantaneous split.
Wow. Either way, it's a testament to the forces of nature, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And this rock isn't just any old stone. You mentioned quartzite.
Exactly. Sioux quartzite. That's the dominant bedrock in this whole area of Minnesota. It's incredibly hard, kind of reddish-pink metamorphic rock. Think of it as the region's bedrock backbone.
Okay.
And it has really shaped the landscape we see today.
So zooming out a bit, getting a broader picture, Split Rock Creek State Park sits within this fascinating geographical region called the Kote de Prairie. Sounds kind of grand.
It does, doesn't it? The Kote de Prairie, which basically translates to Highlands of the Prairie, is this vast elevated plateau.
Highlands of the Prairie.
Yeah. Its formation is all down to repeated glacial activity during the Ice Age. Over thousands of years, 3 major ice movements just dumped thick layers of till.
Till? What's that exactly?
It's basically a mix of sand, gravel, rocks, clay, whatever the glacier scraped up and carried along. And these layers can be hundreds of feet deep in places.
Wow. So this layer of till sits on top of that incredibly hard Sioux quartzite we were talking about.
Precisely. And that quartzite wasn't just underfoot. It was also a really valuable resource for building.
Ah, right.
Because it's so durable, Sioux quartzite was locally quarried and used as building material. You can see it right there in the park, the Split Rock Creek Dam itself. built using this very stone.
Okay.
And the nearby bridge on County State 8 Highway 20 is another big example of its use. It's almost like the landscape itself provided the materials needed for the park's development.
That's neat. And it's interesting how the presence of these rocky outcrops and like thinner soil actually helped preserve the native prairie there. How did that work?
Well, the terrain, with exposed rock and shallow soil, just wasn't great for the kind of extensive plowing needed for big farms.
Harder to farm.
Exactly. So it meant that the original prairie ecosystems had a better chance of surviving inside the park boundaries compared to the land around it, which was easier to cultivate.
And the result?
The result is that visitors in late summer get treated to this breathtaking display of prairie colors, a really vibrant tapestry of wildflowers and native grasses.
Sounds beautiful. Now, let's delve into the human history a bit. Before European settlers arrived, Split Rock Creek, or river, as it was sometimes called, it had a different name, right? Tied to the people who first knew this land.
That's right. It was known as Emania.
Emania.
Yeah. It's an important reminder that this landscape has a long, rich history of human connection, long before the park was officially established. And actually, within the park's current borders, there once stood a town called Palisades.
Palisades. Sounds like it might have been, I don't know, pretty substantial at one point.
Well, maybe not huge, but it was definitely a bustling little community for a time. Very little remains today, though. The only surviving structure is the old schoolhouse.
Oh, really? Where is it?
It actually sits on private land now, in a barnyard nearby. Just a silent witness to that bygone era.
And here's the real kicker.
Yeah.
This seemingly quiet prairie area was once the scene of a silver mining boom.
I know, right?
I would not have guessed that. Silver in Minnesota.
It's quite a story. Back in 1886, a man named Charles Patton made a discovery. He found silver along Split Rock Creek, right near Palisades. His claim was called the Merrimack.
A Merrimack.
And it just sparked this frenzy.
Silver rush. What happened? Did people flock there?
Oh, absolutely. News spread like wildfire. Within just 2 weeks, get this, an estimated 300 claims were staked across more than 1,000 acres right there.
300 claims in 2 weeks.
Yeah. It's amazing how quickly the prospect of wealth could just transform a landscape and pull people in. It wasn't just men, either. There was even a woman named Abby Peterson who filed her own claim, known as the Abbey Lode.
The Abbey Lode? I love it. So, sounds like a classic Wild West scenario, almost. But I'm guessing this boom didn't last long.
No, sadly for the prospectors, it didn't. The assay reports came back, and they showed the silver ore was actually very low grade.
Ah.
Yeah, you could only get about 3 ounces of silver from a whole ton of rock.
Ouch. Not worth it.
Exactly. It made large-scale mining completely unsustainable economically.
Right.
The cost of getting it out would have been way more than the silver was worth.
So who actually made money?
Well, legend has it only 2 people really profited. One guy charged a fee to record every claim.
Smart.
And another guy apparently managed to sell his claim for a, modest sum before the bad news got out.
Right.
But that was about it.
A real flash in the pan then.
Yeah.
But the tales of, hidden treasure or mystery around Palisades don't quite end with the silver, do they? There's this story about a missing railroad payroll.
Yes. This is a fantastic piece of local lore. Story goes, a railroad paymaster disappeared near Palisades while carrying a pretty significant payroll.
Oh.
He was eventually found, but he was disoriented, had no memory of what happened to the money, or even his clothes. Just this vague memory of leaving them behind somewhere.
Weird.
Totally. And then years later, his clothes were actually found tucked into a rock crevice near Palisades.
No way.
Yeah. But the payroll, never found.
Yeah.
So it just adds another layer of mystery to the area's history.
It's amazing how these local legends stick around.
They really do. These personal stories make the past feel so much more tangible,
Definitely.
Now, shifting focus just a bit. Archaeological surveys done across Minnesota give us a broader context, right, for understanding what kind of cultural heritage might be present in areas like Split Rock Creek State Park.
Exactly. While these statewide surveys haven't specifically focused on digging within the park itself, they give us valuable insights into how people lived and used the land in this region, historically speaking.
So what have they found elsewhere?
Well, these reports have documented prehistoric sites, things like lithic scatters, which are basically remnants of stone tool making.
As well as historic homestead sites, even old burial grounds in other parts of Minnesota. So this broader work reminds us that even seemingly untouched natural areas can hold significant traces of past human activity.
It suggests the potential for finding similar stuff within the park's boundaries, too.
Precisely. It's a good reminder that the ground beneath our feet often holds these untold stories.
Hmm. Okay, turning back to the present-day natural environment, Split Rock Creek State Park is known as a really important place for wildlife, especially birds. It gets called a birding island.
Yeah, in a sea of agriculture.
Why is that?
It's a very descriptive term, and it's pretty accurate. The surrounding landscape is mostly farmland, right? So the relatively undisturbed habitats inside the park become these crucial refuges for all sorts of bird species, especially those migrating through.
And the lake plays a big role again.
Definitely. As we said, Split Rock Lake is the only sizable lake around, making it a natural magnet for tons of waterfowl.
So the scarcity of natural habitat nearby really amps up the park's importance. What kinds of birds might you actually see there?
Well, the park's woodlands, they aren't huge, but they're vital for migrant sparrows, warblers, flycatchers, giving them much-needed shelter and food as they pass through.
Okay.
Then the grasslands around the lake are nesting grounds for birds like upland sandpipers, western meadowlarks, and several types of sparrows.
Nice.
And if you're interested in marsh birds, there's a cattail marsh at the north end of the lake that's a pretty reliable spot to see marsh wrens.
The park even provides a bird checklist for visitors, which is super helpful. What are some of the common ones versus, say, rarer finds?
Okay, according to that checklist, birds like the Canada goose and the western meadowlark are quite common. You'll likely see those.
There you go.
Snow geese and marsh wrens are considered uncommon sightings. You might occasionally spot a common loon,
Right.
but something like a prairie falcon, that would be a rare and really exciting find.
Wow, prairie falcon.
Yeah, it really highlights the diversity of bird life that finds sanctuary in the park's varied habitats.
Okay, let's switch gears. How can people experience and enjoy Split Rock Creek State Park today? What activities does it offer?
Well, Split Rock Creek offers a good range of things for outdoor lovers. There's the sandy beach on the lake, obviously great for swimming in the summer.
Can't beat that.
Fishing is popular too, from the accessible pier. Anglers can try for crappies, perch, catfish, bullheads. And the bigger lake itself, about 65 acres, apparently has walleye and northern pike too.
Nice. So decent fishing. What about getting out on the water?
Yep, you can rent canoes, kayaks, and paddle boards, usually from Memorial Day through Labor Day. It's a fantastic way to explore the lake, really peaceful.
Sounds lovely. And for hikers.
There's a 2.5-mile hiking trail loop. It offers a great way to see different parts of the park.
What's the trail like? Terrain, views?
It's got varied terrain, some easy mode grass paths, some gravel sections. It takes you through different landscapes, scenic overlooks from Prairie Hill, along the wooded shores of the lake, and you actually walk across the historic Split Rock Creek Dam.
Oh, cool.
And if you want to stay overnight, the park has both electric and non-electric campsites. Plus some more secluded cart-in sites. Reservations are definitely a good idea, especially during peak season.
Good tip. Sounds like a great way to immerse yourself. Any practical things visitors should know before they go?
Yeah, a few things. The park's open daily, 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. You do need a state park vehicle permit for entry.
Standard stuff.
Right. Pets are welcome, but they have to be on a leash, max 6 feet, and you need to clean up after them. And they aren't allowed in buildings or on the beach area.
Okay.
Also, for Memorial Weekend through Labor Day, they offer interpretive programs, often coordinated with nearby Blue Mountain State Park. Those can really add to your visit.
Good to know. Okay, finally, let's touch on the park's historical structures and the efforts to preserve them. We mentioned the dam, but there's also that significant bridge nearby.
Indeed. Just outside the park boundaries, on County State 8 Highway 20, is the historic Split Rock Bridge, built in 1938, also by the WPA.
Ah, another WPA project.
Yeah, and another impressive example of using that local Sioux quartzite in its construction. This bridge isn't just functional, it's architecturally significant. It's considered an outstanding example of an ornamental park bridge.
Ornamental.
Yeah, beautiful stonework, and it's the largest stone arch span of any active highway bridge in Minnesota. It's even on the National Register of Historic Places.
Wow, that's quite a distinction. And like any historic structure, I imagine it needs ongoing care.
Absolutely. A major restoration project has actually been in the works since at least 2015.
Okay.
After navigating some funding hurdles, it's great news that a bid over $1 million has been approved. Work is expected to start next year.
That's a big project. What does the restoration involve?
It's pretty involved. They'll carefully remove the existing roadway and the fill material above the arches, meticulously repoint all the stone masonry, install modern waterproofing to protect the structure long-term, and reconstruct any deteriorated parts of the railings and wing walls.
Sounds complex.
Yeah, they might even use replacement stones sourced from the nearby Jasper quarry to maintain its original look and feel.
It's a significant undertaking. Shows real commitment to preserving this piece of Minnesota history. Where did the funding come from?
It was a collaborative effort involving Pipestone County and ultimately state funds secured through MNDOT, the Minnesota Department of Transportation. The county also got a helpful Minnesota Historical and Cultural Heritage grant back in 2016, which paid for the construction plans.
Paid. Teamwork. Now, there's one more structure with a familiar name that caught my eye. The Split Rock Bathhouse in Garretson. Sounds connected, but it's actually in South Dakota.
That's right. Yeah, it's geographically separate over the border, but the name connection is interesting. The Split Rock Bathhouse in Garretson, South Dakota, was also a WPA project from 1936.
Another one.
Yeah, built using concrete and quartzite. And what's particularly noteworthy, kind of quirky, is that it's the only building included in the Split Rock Creek Park Historic District, despite being in South Dakota.
Wait, how does that work? It's in the historic district, but not even in the park.
Yeah.
Or the state.
It's unusual, yeah. Its inclusion likely stems from its shared history as a WPA project tied directly to the development and recreational boom in the Split Rock Creek area during that whole era.
Okay, I see.
It's described as having a WPA rustic utilitarian design and is considered significant for its role in recreation, entertainment, and just the architecture of the time.
And it's still getting attention.
It is. Just recently, in 2024, it received a $9,000 matching grant for some much-needed rehab work, caulking, tuck pointing. Shows there's still an ongoing commitment to these New Deal-era structures.
Okay, so as we wrap up our deep dive into Split Rock Creek State Park, it's really clear this place has a rich, multifaceted story.
Definitely.
It's a story that covers community action, the lasting legacy of the WPA, those dramatic geological forces, that surprising silver mining chapter, all that bird life, and these dedicated efforts to preserve its history.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It truly is a compelling blend of natural beauty and human history. Offers a wealth of discovery for curious explorers.
And that kind of leads us to our final thought for you listening. Consider how often seemingly quiet, tranquil, natural landscapes hold these incredible, unexpected layers. Human stories, geological wonders, just waiting to be uncovered. What other hidden histories might lie within the landscapes you encounter on your own adventures?
That's a great question to ponder. And we definitely encourage you, if you get the chance, to experience Split Rock Creek State Park firsthand.
Yeah.
Explore its trails, take in those prairie views, maybe even try to imagine the excitement of that short-lived silver boom. It's a place where you can really connect with both the natural and cultural heritage of Minnesota.